Not all endings are spoken. Some are carved into silence, into the dismissive glance, the unapologetic betrayal, the moment they cross a line you never thought they would. Some endings don't come with a conversation. They come wrapped in disrespect, loud, undeniable, and final. You feel it before you fully understand it. A shift, a disregard for your words, a casual dismissal of your presence. They don't say it outright, but their actions scream, "You don't matter." And that is the moment, whether you're ready or not, when the relationship is over. But here's the cruel part. They won't give you closure. They'll leave you questioning, waiting, analyzing every moment, wondering if you misunderstood. Was it that bad? Should I give them another chance? Do I need a final conversation to move on? No, you don't. Because the moment they disrespected you, they handed you the loudest, clearest closure you'll ever hear. And yet so many people ignore it. They chase explanations, demand apologies, and hope for redemption. They don't realize that disrespect is the answer. It is the reason. It is the ending. In this video, we will expose the 7 brutal signs that prove disrespect is all the closure you need. This is it? If you've been waiting for a sign, comment below. I don't need an explanation. Disrespect is enough. Share your experience, hit like, and subscribe to Victory Stoic for more lessons on resilience, dignity, and reclaiming your power. Disrespect is the clearest message. Disrespect is never accidental. It is not something that just happens. It is a message, loud, undeniable, and deliberate. When someone disrespects you, they are telling you exactly how they see you. They are showing you your position in their life, not through words, but through actions. And the harsh truth, they don't expect you to listen. They assume you will excuse it, that you will rationalize it, that you will cling to the illusion of what they once were, instead of seeing what they are showing you now. But disrespect is not a misunderstanding. It is a reality. And your job is not to argue with reality. Your job is to recognize it and act accordingly. The mistake of making excuses for disrespect. Human nature drives us to seek explanations. When someone treats us poorly, we search for reasons. Maybe they're just stressed. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I'm overreacting. But here's the truth. People who respect you don't suddenly forget how to treat you well. People who care don't repeatedly accidentally hurt you. People who value you don't make you question your worth. Disrespect is not about their excuses, it's about their choices. Disrespect as an unspoken goodbye. Not all endings come with closure. Sometimes the only goodbye you will ever get is their lack of regard for your dignity. They won't sit you down and say, "I don't respect you anymore." But they will. Stop considering your feelings. Ignore your boundaries. Act as if losing you wouldn't matter. That is your closure. That is their message. And the more you try to hold on to them, the more you betray yourself. Why this is your final answer. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A person's worth is measured by the worth of what they value." If someone values control over kindness, power over loyalty, or ego over love, they are showing you their priorities. And if you continue tolerating disrespect, you are teaching them that their assumptions about you were right. But you have the power to change that message. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to wait for them to acknowledge what they did. You don't need their permission to walk away. Because the moment they disrespected you, they ended the relationship. Now it's time for you to accept it. The takeaway: stop searching for a reason. Stop hoping for an apology. Stop waiting for them to realize your worth. Disrespect is the only closure you need. Comment below, "I refuse to excuse disrespect." Like, share, and subscribe to Victory Stoic for more lessons on strength, boundaries, and walking away from those who don't deserve you. Number 1. They ignore your feelings. Disrespect doesn't always come in loud insults or dramatic betrayals. Sometimes it comes in the quiet, insidious way someone consistently ignores how you feel. It's in the eye rolls when you express frustration, the way they dismiss your concerns with a "you're overreacting," or the silence that follows when you share something deeply personal, expecting understanding, but receiving indifference. If someone doesn't care how you feel, why do you still care about them? Disrespect through indifference. Respect is not just about grand gestures or kind words, it's about acknowledgement. When someone respects you, they validate your emotions, even if they don't always agree with them. They listen, they respond, they make an effort to understand. But when someone persistently disregards your emotions, it's not just inconsideration, it's a form of emotional abandonment. Example: imagine you've had a terrible day at work. Your boss berated you in front of your colleagues, and you come home exhausted, seeking comfort. You tell your partner about it, expecting at least some words of encouragement, but instead, they barely look up from their phone. They shrug and say, "Yeah, work sucks sometimes. You'll get over it." At that moment, their words may seem trivial, but the deeper message is clear. Your emotions don't matter here. The pattern of emotional neglect. One instance of someone ignoring your feelings might be accidental. Maybe they were distracted, maybe they had their problems on their mind. But when it becomes a pattern, it becomes disrespectful. Watch for these signs. 1. They dismiss your emotions as dramatic, oversensitive, or unimportant. 2. They never ask how you feel or follow up when you express hurt or frustration. 3. They mock your concerns instead of addressing them seriously. 4. They make everything about themselves, redirecting conversations away from your needs. If this is happening, understand that you are in a one-sided emotional investment. And the more you excuse it, the more you teach them that your emotions are disposable. The psychology behind ignoring feelings. According to relationship psychology, emotional validation is one of the core pillars of healthy connections. When someone repeatedly ignores your emotions, they are not just being careless. They are signaling that your well-being is not a priority. Research in emotional intelligence suggests that people who consistently dismiss others' feelings often lack empathy or view relationships purely through their lens of convenience. And here's the brutal truth. If they don't care about your emotions now, they won't care later. Hoping they will suddenly develop emotional awareness is like hoping a storm won't be wet. It goes against its very nature. A story of realization. Consider Sophie, who spent years in a relationship with someone who never truly heard her. When she was upset, he would say, "Here we go again," as if her emotions were an inconvenience. When she tried to talk about her needs, he'd change the subject or say she was too emotional. One day, after yet another argument where he brushed off her feelings, Sophie had a realization. This wasn't love, it was toleration. And she asked herself the hardest question. If he doesn't care how I feel, why am I fighting to keep him in my life? That day, she chose herself. What this tells you: when someone ignores your feelings, they are giving you closure in the loudest way possible. You don't need to ask them why they treat you this way. You don't need to explain to them how much it hurts. You just need to walk away. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot control how someone treats you, but you can control whether or not you continue to accept it. The takeaway: if they don't care how you feel, it means one thing: they don't care enough about you. And that is all the closure you need. Number 2, they make you feel small. Some of the worst disrespect isn't shouted, it's whispered, disguised as subtle put-downs, backhanded compliments, or the constant reminder that somehow you are never quite enough. They don't need to insult you outright. They make you feel inadequate in quiet, cutting ways. Ways that make you question yourself, your worth, your place in their life. If someone regularly makes you feel small, unworthy, or less than who you truly are, why are they still in your life? How disrespect shrinks you. Respect is about acknowledgement, about recognizing someone's value even when they are struggling. A person who values you will uplift you, celebrate your strengths, and support you in moments of doubt. But when someone consistently makes you feel small, they are not challenging you to be better. They are conditioning you to believe you aren't enough. Example: imagine you excitedly tell your partner about a personal achievement, maybe a promotion, a fitness goal, or a creative success. Instead of congratulating you, they respond with, "Well, I mean, it's not like you're running a company or anything. You got lucky, don't get too full of yourself." Oh, so now you think you're better than me? This isn't tough love. This isn't constructive criticism. This is deliberate dismissal, a tactic designed to make you doubt yourself. And the longer you stay in their presence, the more their words seep into your mind, until one day you start questioning yourself without them even having to say a word. The psychology of making someone feel small. People who constantly diminish others often do so out of their insecurity. They thrive on control, and one of the easiest ways to control someone is by undermining their confidence. Psychologists call this ego-driven projection. Instead of dealing with their shortcomings, they make you feel inferior to protect their fragile self-worth. This isn't about you. It's about their fear of losing dominance, their fear that if you realize your power, you might just walk away. And that's exactly what you should do. A story of breaking free. Nathan had always been a confident, ambitious person. But after years of being with Olivia, he found himself second-guessing everything. She had a way of making his achievements seem insignificant. When he landed a new job, she said, "It's just a job. Don't act like it's a big deal." When he started working out, she rolled her eyes, trying to impress someone. At first, he brushed it off. But over time, he realized he was hesitating before sharing the good news with her. He was shrinking, dimming his light just to make her comfortable. One day, after an especially condescending remark, he had a realization. If someone loves you, they don't make you feel like less. They make you feel like more. Nathan didn't argue. He didn't try to prove his worth to her. He simply walked away. And in doing so, he reclaimed the parts of himself that had been slowly eroded. The signs you are being made to feel small. 1. They downplay your achievements instead of celebrating them. 2. They make sarcastic or belittling comments about your passions or goals. 3. They compare you to others in a way that makes you feel inadequate. 4. They act as if your feelings, struggles, or victories don't matter. This is not love. This is not friendship. This is not respect. This is control. Why this is your closure. If someone makes you feel small, it's not an accident. It's a choice. And the longer you stay, the more you reinforce the idea that their words define your worth. But they don't. You do. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." But if someone constantly makes you feel unworthy, they are poisoning the very way you see yourself. The takeaway. Disrespect doesn't always come in the form of betrayal or cruelty. Sometimes it comes in the slow, steady erosion of your confidence. If someone makes you feel small, they have already shown you who they are. And that is all the closure you need. Number 3, they act as if you are replaceable. There is no greater insult in a relationship, whether romantic, friendship, or professional, than being treated as if you are disposable. When someone acts as if you are easily replaced, they are telling you, loud and clear, that your presence holds no real value to them. And here's the truth. If someone treats you like you don't matter, they don't deserve to matter to you. You do not need to beg for recognition. You do not need to wait for them to realize your worth. You simply walk away. How disrespect manifests in making you feel replaceable. Respect means prioritization. It means knowing that your presence in someone's life is valued and irreplaceable. Not just when it's convenient for them, but always. When someone begins to treat you like an afterthought, when they no longer put effort into maintaining your connection, that is your closure. Example, imagine you are dating someone who once made you feel like the center of their world, but over time, their interest fades. They take longer to respond to your messages, cancel plans at the last minute, and only seem engaged when they need something from you. You bring it up, hoping for a real conversation, and they respond with, "You're being too sensitive. I've just been busy. If you don't like it, you don't have to stay." Right there, in that last sentence, is your answer. They are telling you, without saying it directly, that they don't care if you leave. And the second you realize that, you should. The psychology of being treated as replaceable people who make others feel disposable often operate from a place of arrogance or entitlement. They assume that you will always be there and that they don't need to invest effort to keep you around. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. Giving just enough attention to keep you hopeful, but never enough to make you feel secure. It's a manipulation tactic designed to keep you in a constant state of seeking validation. And the longer you tolerate it, the more you reinforce their belief that you will never leave. But you can, and when you do, you won't be the one who's easily replaced. They will. A story of reclaiming self-worth. Michael had a close friend, Jake, who he always prioritized. Whenever Jake needed something, a favor, emotional support, a last-minute plan, Michael was there. But over time, he noticed something. Jake never showed up for him. If Michael needed help, Jake had excuses. If Michael invited him out, Jake would cancel last minute, only to be seen with other friends. One day, Michael decided to test something. He stopped initiating, stopped chasing, and stopped making the effort. And just like that, Jake disappeared. No call, no text, nothing. That was the moment Michael realized. The friendship was only ever real when I was the one holding it together. Signs you are being treated as replaceable. 1. They only make an effort when it benefits them. 2. They don't prioritize you. You are always an afterthought. 3. They treat your presence as optional, never essential. 4. They make you feel guilty for expecting basic respect. 5. They show no fear of losing you, even when you express unhappiness. If any of these sound familiar, the truth is simple. They believe you will stay no matter how they treat you. Prove them wrong. Why this is your closure. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If someone repeatedly makes you feel unimportant, over time, you may start to believe it. Don't. You are not replaceable. You are not a backup option. You are not an afterthought. And anyone who treats you as such has just handed you your closure on a silver platter. Because if someone acts as if losing you wouldn't matter, it's time to make sure it doesn't. The takeaway: you don't need revenge. You don't need explanations. You don't need them to realize what they lost. You just need to leave. Number 4, they compete with you instead of supporting you. There is a difference between healthy competition and toxic rivalry. The people who truly respect you will celebrate your success, uplift your ambitions, and stand by your side, not try to outshine, undermine, or subtly sabotage you. But when someone sees your growth as a threat, when every achievement you make becomes a silent battle in their mind, they are no longer an ally. They are an opponent. And that is all the closure you need. How toxic competition disguises itself. At first, it might not be obvious. Maybe you share the good news, and instead of a genuine "I'm happy for you," you get a dismissive "Oh, must be nice," or "I could do that too if I had your luck." Or perhaps they constantly one-up your experiences. You just bought your first car? They've had one for years. Did you get promoted? They don't think your job is that hard anyway. You've started a new passion project? They did something similar, but better. This isn't encouragement. This is a subtle war, where they see your success not as something to celebrate, but as something to surpass. Example: imagine you're excitedly telling your friend about a new skill you've developed. Maybe you've taken up painting, running, or investing. Instead of supporting your progress, they instantly shift the conversation to themselves. "Oh, I did that years ago. It's not that hard. I know someone way better at that than you." That's cool, but did I tell you about this amazing thing I did? This is not friendship. This is not respect. This is an ego battle you never signed up for. The psychology behind toxic competition. People who compete with you instead of supporting you often struggle with deep-seated insecurity. Your success acts as a mirror, reflecting their fears of inadequacy. Instead of confronting these insecurities, they try to drag you down to their level or push themselves ahead at your expense. Psychologists call this social comparison theory. When someone has low self-esteem, they gauge their worth by comparing themselves to others. Instead of using that comparison as motivation for self-improvement, they turn it into resentment. But their insecurity is not your responsibility. A story of realizing the truth. Sarah and Emily had been best friends for years. They supported each other through life's ups and downs, until one day, Sarah noticed a pattern. Whenever Sarah accomplished something, whether it was getting a raise, traveling somewhere new, or even just learning a new skill, Emily always had to one-up her. At first, Sarah ignored it, thinking it was harmless. But then, Emily started downplaying Sarah's achievements. She'd make sarcastic remarks, poke fun at her excitement, and even imitate Sarah's ideas just to claim them as her own. One day, Sarah had enough. She shared something deeply personal, her dream of starting a business. Instead of encouragement, Emily smirked and said, "Honestly, I don't think you have what it takes. It's not as easy as you think." At that moment, Sarah realized that Emily was never rooting for her. She was waiting for her to fail. So Sarah did what she should have done a long time ago. She walked away. Signs you are dealing with a toxic competitor. 1. They never genuinely celebrate your achievements. 2. They downplay your success or suggest it was just luck. 3. They constantly try to outdo you, even when unnecessary. 4. They get distant or cold when you accomplish something great. 5. They subtly undermine you or discourage your ambitions. This is not respect. This is competition disguised as friendship, love, or support. And you don't need that in your life. Why this is your closure. A person who respects you wants to see you win. They push you forward, not hold you back. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And if someone is constantly making you doubt yourself, making you feel less instead of more, why are they still in your life? Disrespect doesn't always come in the form of insults or betrayals. Sometimes it's the absence of support, the silent resentment behind every forced congratulations, the constant reminder that they are not cheering for you. They are competing with you. And when you see it for what it is, that is your closure. The takeaway. You don't need someone who secretly wants you to fail. You need people who celebrate your victories as if they were their own. If someone sees you as a competition, let them win the game they invented. Walk away and play a bigger one. Number 5, they never apologize, or they apologize without meaning it. Some people never apologize, no matter how deeply they've hurt you. Others apologize, but their words are empty, hollow phrases designed to quiet you down rather than acknowledge their wrongdoing. Both are equally dangerous. A real apology requires humility, accountability, and change. But when someone refuses to apologize or throws out meaningless sorry just to move past the situation, they're telling you something loud and clear. They don't respect you enough to take responsibility. And that is all the closure you need. Why a meaningless apology is worse than no apology. At first, a fake apology might sound like an attempt at peace. But in reality, it's nothing more than damage control. It's an attempt to silence you without actually fixing the problem. A genuine apology sounds like, "I hurt you, and I take full responsibility. I understand how my actions made you feel, and I will change. I'm sorry, and I will prove it through my actions." A meaningless apology sounds like, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Translation, "I don't care how you feel. Can we just move on?" Translation, "Your feelings are an inconvenience." Fine, I'm sorry. Happy now? Translation, "I'm saying this to shut you up." Example, imagine you catch a friend lying to you. When you confront them, instead of genuinely owning up to it, they say, "Geez, you're so sensitive. Sorry, okay? Can we stop talking about this now?" This is not remorse. This is manipulation. Because if they were truly sorry, they wouldn't be rushing to end the conversation. The psychology of refusing to apologize. People who refuse to apologize or apologize insincerely do so for one of 3 reasons. 1, they don't respect you. They don't think your feelings are worth addressing. 2, they don't want to change. Owning up to their actions would require growth, and they're unwilling to do the work. 3, they see vulnerability as a weakness. Admitting fault threatens their ego, so they avoid it at all costs. Research on relationships and conflict resolution suggests that people who struggle to apologize often have fragile self-esteem. Instead of seeing an apology as a chance to grow, they see it as losing power. But here's what they don't understand. Refusing to apologize doesn't make them powerful. It makes them untrustworthy. A story of seeing through fake apologies. Emma had been dating Daniel for 2 years. Whenever they argued, she found herself always being the one to apologize, even when he was clearly in the wrong. If she pointed out something he did that hurt her, he'd respond with, "Wow, you're going to make a big deal out of this?" I said, "Sorry, what more do you want? Can we just move on?" Over time, Emma noticed a pattern. His apologies never led to real change. He apologized when necessary to keep her from leaving, but he never actually acknowledged his mistakes. One day, after yet another careless, forced apology, she realized that this cycle would never end, because he never believed he did anything wrong in the first place. That was the day Emma stopped waiting for a real apology. That was the day she walked away. Signs of fake apologies and lack of accountability. 1, they blame you for their behavior instead of taking responsibility. 2, they say sorry just to move on, not because they regret their actions. 3. They repeat the same behavior after apologizing, proving their words mean nothing. 4. They make you feel guilty for even bringing up the issue. 5. They act like you're too emotional or too sensitive to expect accountability. This is not remorse. This is manipulation. And when someone refuses to take responsibility for hurting you, they have already told you that they will hurt you again. Why this is your closure. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You shouldn't have to beg someone to be decent. You shouldn't have to teach someone how to respect you. When someone refuses to apologize or gives you a fake meaningless one, they are making a statement. I do not care enough to change. I do not respect you enough to take responsibility. I will do this again. And that is your answer. No more waiting. No more explaining. No more giving chances to someone who doesn't even acknowledge the damage they caused. The takeaway. If they refuse to apologize, or if their apology is empty, you don't need to stay. You don't need to convince someone to care. You don't need to force someone to change. Disrespect is the loudest closure you will ever get. Number 6, they betray your trust. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship, whether it's love, friendship, or family. It's what allows us to be vulnerable, to share our deepest fears, and to believe that someone will have our back when we need them most. But when someone betrays that trust, they are not just making a mistake, they are making a statement. A single betrayal might be an accident, but if it happens again, it's a choice, and just like them, you have a choice too. You can choose to forgive them blindly and risk being hurt again, or you can choose to walk away, knowing that their actions have already given you all the closure you need. How betrayal reveals true character. Betrayal doesn't always come in the form of grand, cinematic backstabbing. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the friend who talks about you behind your back, the partner who repeatedly hides things from you, the family member who shares your secrets for their gain. Example: imagine you confide in someone about a deeply personal struggle, something you trusted them to keep between you two. Days later, you hear it being discussed in whispers, twisted into something unrecognizable. You confront them, and their response is dismissive. "Oh, relax. It's not a big deal. I didn't think it was that serious. Why are you making this about you?" Right there, in their reaction, is your answer. It was never about misunderstanding, it was about their lack of respect. The psychology of betrayal. People betray others for a few reasons. 1. Self-interest. They prioritize their benefit over your trust. 2. Lack of integrity. They don't value honesty or loyalty the way you do. 3. Control. They use your vulnerability against you to keep power in the relationship. Psychologists say that repeat betrayals are rarely accidents. They are patterns, and the longer you stay, the more you teach them that they can keep breaking your trust without consequence. You don't need to wait for another betrayal to confirm what you already know. A story of seeing betrayal for what it is. Liam had been best friends with Jake since childhood. They had been through everything together, and Liam trusted him like a brother. But over the years, small betrayals began piling up. Jake would joke about Liam's insecurities in front of others, break promises without a second thought, and worst of all, he once lied to cover for himself, letting Liam take the fall for something he didn't do. Liam always forgave him, believing that deep down, Jake still cared. Until one day, Liam realized the truth. Jake didn't care about their friendship the same way he did. And with that realization, the pain of betrayal faded, because Liam finally understood. He wasn't losing a friend, he was letting go of an illusion. Signs someone cannot be trusted. 1. They break promises repeatedly. 2. They reveal things you told them in confidence. 3. They downplay or justify their betrayal instead of apologizing. 4. They prioritize their gain at your expense. 5. They expect you to simply move on without consequences. This isn't a mistake. This isn't an accident. This is who they are. And you don't need to stick around to see if they'll do it again. Why this is your closure. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The best way to respond to betrayal is not to fight for an explanation, not to seek an apology, not to wait for them to become the person you hoped they were. It is to walk away. Because someone who truly cares about you would never put you in a position to doubt them in the first place. And once they do, that is your closure. The takeaway. You don't need proof that they will do it again. You don't need to hear them say, "I'm sorry." You don't need another betrayal to justify leaving. Disrespect is the loudest closure you will ever get. Number 7. They pretend like nothing happened. Disrespect doesn't always come in the form of loud arguments or outright betrayal. Sometimes it comes in the deafening silence of denial. When someone hurts you, whether through betrayal, dishonesty, or emotional neglect, and then acts like it never happened, they are making a statement. Your pain doesn't matter. Your feelings are irrelevant. You should just move on without acknowledgement, without resolution, without closure. And if they can pretend like nothing happened, why should you pretend like they still deserve a place in your life? Why they pretend nothing happened? At first, their silence might confuse you. You might wonder, do they not remember? Did they just forget? But don't be fooled. People don't forget the damage they cause. They just hope you do. There are 3 reasons why people pretend nothing happened. 1, they don't want to take responsibility. Owning up to their actions would mean admitting fault, and their ego won't allow it. 2, they are testing your boundaries. If they can get away with it once, they will do it again. 3, they assume you'll let it go. If you stay silent, they'll take it as permission to keep disrespecting you. Example: imagine you find out your partner has been lying to you about something serious. You confront them, expecting a conversation, an explanation, maybe even an apology. Instead, they brush it off. "I don't see what the big deal is. Why are you bringing this up again? Let's just forget about it and move on." Right there in those dismissive words is the truth. They don't care how this affected you. They care about avoiding accountability, the psychological manipulation of silence. This tactic is a form of gaslighting, not the aggressive kind that makes you question your reality, but the insidious kind that makes you feel like your pain is an overreaction. Psychologists call this stonewalling, a behavior where someone deliberately ignores an issue to maintain control. By refusing to engage, they shift the burden onto you, forcing you to either accept their behavior or become the dramatic one for insisting on a resolution. But here's the truth: ignoring an issue doesn't make it disappear, it makes it fester. And if someone refuses to acknowledge your pain, they have already chosen to exit the relationship. A story of learning to walk away. Mark had a best friend, David, whom he trusted like a brother. One day, Mark found out that David had been spreading lies about him to mutual friends. Hurt and confused, he confronted him. David laughed and shrugged it off. "Dude, that was weeks ago. Why are you still on this? I don't even remember saying that. It's not a big deal, just move on." At that moment, Mark had a realization. This wasn't just about the lies. This was about how little David valued their friendship. And so, Mark made his decision. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with silence of his own. He walked away. Signs someone is pretending nothing happened. 1. They refuse to acknowledge the harm they caused. 2. They downplay or dismiss the issue, making you feel dramatic for bringing it up. 3. They change the subject or avoid conversations about it. 4. They expect you to act like everything is normal without resolving anything. 5. They get irritated when you try to talk about it, treating your pain as an inconvenience. This isn't just disrespect. This is emotional negligence. And the only way to respond is to treat their silence as your answer. Why this is your closure. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You don't need them to acknowledge what they did. You don't need them to apologize. You don't need them to admit they were wrong. The moment they act like nothing happened, they are telling you everything you need to know. And the best response? Act like they never happened. The takeaway: if they can erase your pain, erase their place in your life. If they can pretend nothing happened, pretend they no longer exist. You don't need a confrontation. You don't need a final conversation. You don't need closure from them, because their silence was already your answer. Disrespect is not a mistake, it's a pattern. Disrespect doesn't happen by accident. It's not a one-time mistake. It's a choice. One act of disrespect may be overlooked, but when it happens repeatedly, it is no longer a misunderstanding, it is a pattern of behavior. And patterns tell the truth. The truth is, people who repeatedly disrespect you are not forgetting how to treat you well. They are either 1. Testing your boundaries, 2. Asserting dominance, 3. Showing you that they do not value you. And every time you tolerate it, you are silently telling them, this is okay, you can do this again. B. Disrespect is not an accident, it's a strategy. Many people assume that disrespect is just carelessness, that maybe the other person didn't mean it. But here's the harsh reality. People don't accidentally belittle you in front of others. They don't accidentally dismiss your feelings over and over again. They don't accidentally ignore your boundaries while expecting you to respect theirs. They know exactly what they are doing. Some people use disrespect as a tactic, a way to weaken your confidence, make you question yourself, and establish power in the relationship. They push you little by little, seeing how much you will take before you finally push back. And the longer you allow it, the more they believe they have control over you. A story of recognizing the pattern. Jake had been dating Lauren for 2 years. In the beginning, everything was perfect. She was kind, attentive, and affectionate. But as time went on, small acts of disrespect started slipping in. First, it was subtle, rolling her eyes when he spoke, ignoring his concerns, dismissing them as not a big deal, making jokes at his expense in front of friends. Then, it escalated, criticizing him in public, talking down to him, acting like he was always the one in the wrong. Every time Jake brought it up, she had an excuse. Oh, come on, you're too sensitive. I was just joking. You're making a big deal out of nothing. At first, Jake believed her. But one day, after yet another moment where his feelings were treated as an inconvenience, he realized something. This wasn't an accident. It was a pattern. And the only reason it continued? Because he let it. That day, he decided something else. Never again. The price of tolerating disrespect. When you excuse disrespect once, you invite it again. And each time you ignore it, the behavior escalates. 1. First, they test your tolerance. A small joke at your expense, a little disregard for your boundaries. 2. Then they normalize it. If you don't push back, they assume you've accepted it. 3. Finally, they control you. Your silence becomes their permission. And by the time you realize what's happening, the pattern has already taken root. Why this is your closure. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you stay around disrespect long enough, you begin to internalize it. You begin to think, maybe I am overreacting, maybe I should just accept it, maybe this is just how relationships are. But you are not overreacting. Disrespect is not normal. And the moment you recognize the pattern for what it is, you don't need an apology. You don't need an explanation. You need to walk away. The takeaway: disrespect is not a mistake. It is a habit, a behavior, a choice. And the only way to break the cycle is to refuse to be part of it. See disrespect as a great teacher. Close the door to open a new chapter. Disrespect is painful. It shakes you, wounds your self-worth, and leaves you questioning everything. But here's the truth. Disrespect is also one of life's greatest teachers. It teaches you who truly values you. It teaches you who deserves access to your life. And most importantly, it teaches you about yourself, what you tolerate, what you accept, and when it's time to walk away. Most people see disrespect as an insult. But what if you saw it as a lesson? Disrespect is a lesson in self-worth. When someone disrespects you, they are showing you exactly what they think of you. But the real question is, what do you think of you? Do you believe you deserve better? Will you accept their behavior, or will you choose yourself? Disrespect is not about them, it's about what you do next. Example: imagine a coworker constantly takes credit for your work. You keep quiet because you don't want to cause problems, but every time you let it slide, you reinforce a message to them and yourself that you will tolerate being undervalued. The lesson? People will treat you how you allow them to. Disrespect isn't just an offense, it's a mirror. It reflects where you need stronger boundaries, greater self-respect, and a willingness to walk away from those who don't honor your worth. The power of closing the door. People fear closing doors. They fear walking away, letting go, or cutting ties. They cling to toxic relationships, unhealthy friendships, and draining environments because they believe that leaving means losing. But what if leaving was gaining? Gaining peace, gaining clarity, gaining the space to attract people who do respect you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Disrespect is not an obstacle, it is a path leading you away from what no longer serves you and towards something greater. But you have to be willing to close the door first. A story of transformation. Sarah had spent years in a relationship with someone who constantly belittled her. At first, she made excuses. Maybe he's just stressed. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe if I try harder, he'll change. But one day, after yet another moment of dismissal, something clicked. She asked herself, why am I fighting for someone who doesn't even respect me? And for the first time, she saw disrespect not as something to tolerate, but as a lesson to learn from. So she closed the door, and in doing so, she opened a new chapter. One where she was no longer waiting for someone to respect her, but instead respecting herself enough to walk away. Why disrespect is the best closure. You don't need an apology. You don't need an explanation. You don't need them to suddenly see your worth. The moment they disrespected you, they ended the relationship. Now it's up to you to make sure the door stays closed. Because every time you leave a situation that no longer honors you, you create space for something that will. The takeaway: disrespect is painful, but it is also a gift. It is the lesson that teaches you when to walk away, when to stop explaining, and when to demand more from life. If someone has shown you who they truly are, believe them. Close the door, turn the page, and walk into the chapter where you no longer tolerate anything less than what you deserve. Closing. Not all endings are spoken. Some are delivered through silence, indifference, and a lack of basic respect. When someone disrespects you, they are telling you everything you need to know, not with words, but with actions. And the moment you recognize that you don't need closure, you have it. You don't need to chase explanations, demand apologies, or hope they'll realize their mistake. The mistake wasn't yours, it was theirs. And the real question is not why they did it, but why you would ever stay after they did. Every time you tolerate disrespect, you send a message, not to them, but to yourself. You tell yourself that their behavior is something you can accept, that their lack of care is something you can endure. But you are worth more than endurance. You are worth self-respect. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You may not control how others treat you, but you control who has access to you. So don't wait for closure that has already been given. Disrespect is the answer. Walking away is your response. Let their actions be the last word, and let your silence be the start of something better. Something where you are valued, where you are respected, where you are finally free. Comment below. I don't need an explanation. Disrespect is enough. Like, share, and subscribe to Victory Stoic, because self-respect isn't negotiable. A disrespect is the clearest message.